There's someone who thought they had this all figured out. They believed they knew exactly what they wanted, how much they were willing to feel, where their boundaries were. They had their walls built carefully, their heart protected strategically. They'd been through enough to know better than to let anyone get too close. They understood the rules of staying safe, keeping things light, maintaining control. And then you happened. If you're watching this, you already know something shifted. Something they never planned for, never saw coming, never believed could actually happen to them. They were supposed to stay casual, keep it surface level, maintain that comfortable distance where nothing gets too real. But somewhere between their careful planning and their controlled approach, something cracked open inside them. And now they're in completely unfamiliar territory. What I'm about to share with you isn't about hope or wishful thinking. This is about what's actually happening right now in their inner world. This is about the depth they've fallen to, depth they didn't know they were capable of, depth that's both terrifying and exhilarating, depth that's changed everything about how they see you, themselves, and what's possible between two people. They're lying awake replaying conversations, analyzing moments, feeling things they swore they'd never feel again. They're caught in this place between resistance and surrender, between who they thought they were and who you're bringing out of them. And here's what matters most, they don't know how to let you go because their soul has already decided something their mind is still trying to argue with. Stay with me through this entire journey, because what we're uncovering here goes layers deeper than, they like you, or, they're interested. We're talking about the kind of emotional entanglement that rewrites a person's internal landscape. We're exploring the specific ways you've gotten under their skin, into their thoughts, wrapped around their heart in ways they can't untangle, and maybe don't even want to anymore. Before we go further, I want to acknowledge those of you who've supported this space through super thanks. Your generosity allows me to dedicate the time and energy these deep explorations require. If this message is already speaking to your situation, that feature is there for you. Let's begin with what they didn't expect. They didn't expect the laughter. Not like that. Not the kind that comes from somewhere genuine, the kind they haven't experienced in so long they'd forgotten what real joy between two people feels like. Maybe they thought they'd have a few pleasant conversations, some light banter, nothing serious. But then you said something that wasn't even that profound, and they found themselves laughing in a way that felt like coming home. That was the first crack in their armor, though they didn't recognize it yet. They didn't expect how comfortable the silence would be. There's someone who usually needs noise, distraction, constant stimulation to avoid uncomfortable feelings. But with you, they realized they could just exist. No performance, no pressure to fill every gap with words. They could sit next to you or be on the phone with you and the quiet felt like safety rather than awkwardness. That terrified them more than they wanted to admit, because comfortable silence means intimacy, and intimacy means vulnerability, and vulnerability means risk. They didn't expect to start seeing you everywhere. Not physically, though they do find themselves hoping to run into you in places they know you frequent, but mentally. Emotionally. Spiritually. You've become a presence in their life that doesn't depend on your physical proximity. They're watching a show and thinking about whether you'd like it. They're eating something delicious and wishing you were there to try it. They hear a song and immediately imagine sharing it with you. Their life has become this constant internal conversation with you, even when you're not there. You've become the lens through which they're experiencing everything else. They didn't expect their body to react this way. This is deeper than attraction, though that's certainly part of it. When they see your name on their phone, their heart rate changes. When they know they're going to see you, there's this anticipation that builds in their chest, not nervous exactly, but alive. Electrically, undeniably alive. When you're near them, they're hyper-aware of the space between you, the possibility of touch, the energy that seems to crackle in that gap. Their body is having a response their mind hasn't fully authorized yet. They didn't expect the fear. Real, visceral, breath-catching fear. Because they've been here before, or thought they had, and they know what it means to give someone this much access to your inner world. They know the potential for devastation. They know how much power you now hold simply by existing in their emotional landscape. Every time they feel themselves falling deeper, there's this voice that says, "Stop. Pull back. This is dangerous." But here's what's different this time, they're falling anyway. The fear isn't stopping them. It's just making them aware of how significant this is. They didn't expect to start imagining futures. They're not naive, they know better than to get ahead of themselves. But they can't help it. They find themselves picturing scenarios, what it would be like to wake up next to you, how you'd fit into their daily routine, what holidays together might look like, how you'd get along with their people. These aren't just fantasies, they're their subconscious trying to make room for you in their actual life. Their brain is literally restructuring their concept of their future to include you, and that's not something that happens unless something profound has been triggered. They didn't expect to care this much about your opinion. They're someone who usually doesn't seek external validation, they know who they are, they're confident in their choices, they don't need approval. But with you, they catch themselves wondering what you think of them, hoping you're impressed by something they did, wanting to show you their best self. They're sharing their wins with you before anyone else because your pride in them matters. They're also sharing their struggles because your understanding matters. You've somehow become both their cheerleader and their safe place, and they didn't realize how much they needed someone to be both. They didn't expect the jealousy. Not possessive, toxic jealousy, just that twinge when they see you giving attention to someone else, that curiosity about your past, that protectiveness about your present. They notice when other people look at you the way they look at you. They wonder about your history, your patterns, who's had access to you before. They're aware of competition in a way they never intended to be, because you've become something valuable, something precious, something they're realizing they don't want to share. This isn't about ownership. This is about how much they've come to treasure what you are. They didn't expect how you'd change their standards. Other people suddenly seem less interesting. Connections they thought were meaningful now feel surface level. They find themselves comparing everything to how it feels with you, and nothing else measures up. This has happened gradually, so gradually they didn't notice until suddenly everyone else felt like a downgrade. You've recalibrated their entire understanding of what connection can be, what chemistry feels like, what they should actually be looking for. And that means even if they walked away from you, they'd still be changed by you. You've ruined them for anything less than what you've shown them is possible. They didn't expect the integration. You're not just in their thoughts occasionally, you're woven into their daily experience. Morning coffee tastes better when they're thinking about you. Challenges at work feel more manageable because they know they can tell you about it later. Success feels sweeter because they want to celebrate with you. Failure feels less devastating because they trust you'd understand. You've become part of their emotional infrastructure, the framework they're using to interpret and experience their entire life. And that's when they realized, this isn't casual. This isn't temporary. This isn't something they can just decide to stop feeling. They've fallen far deeper than they ever intended, and now they're standing at the edge of something that both thrills and terrifies them, looking down at how far they've already descended, realizing there's no climbing back up to who they were before you. If you're feeling this truth landing, go ahead and drop a heart emoji in the comments. Let's create some acknowledgement for what's being seen here. Let me take you deeper into what this entanglement actually looks like in their daily experience, because this is where you'll recognize the truth of what's happening. Their mind has become territory you occupy without even trying. They'll be in the middle of a task, something that should have their full attention, and suddenly there you are. Not as a distraction exactly, but as a presence. They're solving a problem at work and they think about how you'd approach it. They're making a decision and they imagine what your perspective would be. They're processing an emotion and they find themselves rehearsing how they'd explain it to you. This isn't conscious. They're not sitting down and deciding, now I'll think about this person. You're just there. Ambient. Constant. Like background music that's become part of the atmosphere of their thoughts. They'll go hours having an internal dialogue with an imagined version of you, testing ideas against your imagined reactions, seeking the comfort of your imagined presence. When they're driving, you're in the passenger seat of their mind. When they're grocery shopping, they're noticing things you mentioned you like. When they're scrolling through their phone before bed, they're hoping you'll text, and when you don't, they're crafting messages they won't send, deleting them, rewriting them, eventually putting their phone down but still composing messages in their head as they drift off. You are the last thought before sleep and the first thought upon waking more often than they'd ever admit. Their emotional world has reorganized itself around you as a central point. Good news doesn't feel complete until they've shared it with you. Hard moments feel heavier when they can't talk to you about them. Their mood is influenced by the quality of your last interaction in ways they can't control and don't fully understand. They notice patterns. When you're distant, they feel unsettled. When you're warm, they feel grounded. When you're playful, they feel lighter. When you're vulnerable, they feel trusted and honored. Your emotional state has become a weather system that affects their internal climate, and they're so attuned to your shifts that they can sense your mood from a text message, from your tone of voice, from the way you say hello. This emotional entanglement means they're carrying you with them everywhere. Your joy becomes their joy. Your stress becomes something they want to help solve. Your pain becomes something they feel in their own chest. They've lost the boundary between their emotional experience and yours in ways that would probably concern them if they stopped to think about it too much. But they're not stopping to think about it. They're just feeling it, living it, being transformed by it. Watch how they've changed their patterns. They're checking their phone more frequently, and they're not even subtle about hoping it's you. They've adjusted their schedule in small ways that increase the chances of contact with you. They're showing up in places they think you might be, though they'd never frame it that way. They're saying yes to things they'd normally decline because you might be there. They're also changing deeper patterns. They're being more honest because you make them want to be authentic. They're being more vulnerable because you've made it feel safe. They're taking better care of themselves because they want to show up well for you. They're working on their issues because you make them want to be better. You've become a catalyst for growth they didn't even know they needed. Their friends have noticed. You seem different, someone says, and they deflect or minimize, but inside they know exactly what's different, you. You're the difference. You're the variable that's changed the equation of their life. Here's something profound that's happening beneath the surface: they're becoming someone new in response to you. Not losing themselves, that's not what this is. But you're calling forth aspects of them that have been dormant or underdeveloped. Maybe you make them want to be more adventurous, so they're taking risks they wouldn't have taken. Maybe you value intellect, so they're reading more, learning more, engaging with ideas more deeply. Maybe you appreciate humor, so they're letting their playful side emerge. You're not asking them to change. That's not what's happening here. But your presence in their life is creating space for them to expand into versions of themselves they've always had the potential to become. They're braver around you. More honest. More creative. More alive. And every time they experience this expansion, it binds them more tightly to you because you're associated with them becoming more fully themselves. They're terrified of losing you partially because they're terrified of losing who they're becoming because of you. For some of them, maybe not all, but some, there's a spiritual dimension to this that feels almost mystical. They have moments where it feels like they've known you before, like your souls recognized each other. They experience synchronicities that feel too meaningful to be coincidence, thinking of you right before you call, dreaming about you before significant conversations, feeling your energy shift even when you're not together. Whether they frame it in spiritual language or not, there's a sense of meant to be that they can't shake. A feeling that the universe conspired to bring you together, that there's purpose in this connection beyond just romance or companionship. They find themselves believing in things they maybe didn't believe in before: destiny, soul connections, divine timing, because how else do you explain the depth of what's happening between you? Their soul accepted before their mind knew what was happening. This spiritual recognition makes letting go feel like betraying something sacred, like walking away from an assignment their soul accepted before their mind knew what was happening. Their concept of their future has fundamentally changed. They used to have a clear picture of where they were headed, what their life would look like, what they wanted and didn't want. Now that picture includes you, or rather, it feels incomplete without you. They're not just imagining romantic scenarios. They're reimagining their entire trajectory with you as part of the landscape. Career decisions are being filtered through, how would this affect us? Living situations are being considered with, could they be part of this? Life goals are being adjusted to accommodate space for partnership. They're not necessarily aware they're doing this, it's happening at a subconscious level, but their brain is literally rewiring their future planning to account for your presence. And here's what makes this so binding: the more they imagine you in their future, the more painful it becomes to imagine a future without you. Every future scenario with you is detailed, warm, full of possibility. Every future scenario without you feels gray, empty, diminished. Their brain has already decided which future feels right, even if their conscious mind is still catching up. The vulnerability paradox. They're experiencing something paradoxical: the more vulnerable they become with you, the more they need you. Vulnerability creates intimacy, and intimacy creates dependency, not unhealthy dependency, but the natural human need for continued connection with someone who's seen you fully and hasn't turned away. Every time they share something difficult and you respond with understanding, they get a hit of acceptance that's addictive. Every time they show you their mess and you don't leave, they learn that you might be safe in ways no one else has been. Every time they trust you with something tender and you handle it with care, they become more convinced that you're rare, that what you offer is precious, that losing you would mean losing access to a quality of love they might never find again. This vulnerability isn't weakness. It's the mechanism through which they've become genuinely attached to you, through which you've moved from being someone they're interested in to someone they need. Don't scroll away, we're building towards something important here, and what's coming next will show you exactly why they can't just walk away from what you've created together. Now we arrive at the heart of what they're grappling with internally. This is the awakening they're in the middle of, the realization that's simultaneously beautiful and terrifying. They're confronting the fact that you can't control love. You can't meter it out in safe doses. You can't decide in advance how much access someone gets to your heart. They tried. They really tried to stay in control, to keep this manageable, to maintain the upper hand or at least equal footing. But depth doesn't ask permission. Connection doesn't follow strategy. The heart has its own intelligence that overrides the mind's careful plans. They're realizing they surrendered long before they admitted it. All those moments they told themselves they were staying casual. They were already falling. All those times they maintained they weren't getting attached. Attachment was already happening at levels they couldn't see. They were conquered by you before they even knew the battle was underway, and now they're looking back seeing all the moments they were already yours while still pretending they were still free. This realization is humbling. Their ego wanted to believe they were sophisticated enough, experienced enough, guarded enough to avoid this kind of complete immersion in another person. But here they are, immersed. Completely. And the part of them that's awake enough to see this is both amused and awed by how thoroughly you've undone their defenses. They're understanding something crucial: you can't unknow someone. They can't go back to who they were before you showed them what connection can actually feel like. Even if you disappeared tomorrow, you'd still live inside them. You've changed their baseline for what's possible between people, what love can feel like, what they deserve to receive and are capable of giving. This is why letting go feels impossible, not just because they'd miss you, but because you've fundamentally altered their internal landscape. You're not an experience they had, you're a transformation they underwent. You're not someone who passed through, you're someone who left permanent marks. They've been altered at a cellular level by knowing you, and they're coming to terms with the fact that this alteration is irreversible. Who they were before you met. That person doesn't exist anymore. You've killed that version of them through the simple act of showing up as you are. And while there's grief in that loss of their previous self, there's also recognition that who they're becoming because of you is someone they actually want to be. They keep running this calculation in their head, trying to make sense of whether the risk is worth it. Because make no mistake, they know the risk. They know that giving you this much access means giving you the power to devastate them. They know that continuing down this path means potentially setting themselves up for the kind of heartbreak they swore they'd never allow again. But here's what they keep coming back to: the alternative is worse. The risk of losing you by walking away feels greater than the risk of losing you by staying. At least if they stay, there's possibility. At least if they're brave enough to keep falling, there's a chance this becomes everything they've secretly hoped for but been too afraid to believe in. They're calculating not just romantic odds but existential ones. What does it cost to play it safe for the rest of their life versus what does it cost to be brave with you? What do they lose by protecting their heart versus what they lose by opening it? And increasingly, the math is coming out in favor of risk. The math is saying you're worth it. Even if this ends badly, and they're aware it might, they're starting to believe that knowing you, feeling this, experiencing this depth will have been worth whatever pain might come later. They're recognizing something about themselves they didn't fully know before: they're someone capable of loving deeply. Maybe they doubted this about themselves. Maybe past relationships were shallow enough that they wondered if they were capable of real intensity. Maybe they'd convinced themselves they were too rational, too independent, too damaged to ever feel this consumed by another person. But you've proven otherwise. You've shown them that their capacity for depth was always there, just waiting for the right person to call it forth. And now that they know this about themselves, now that they've experienced what it feels like to love with this level of totality, they can't pretend to be someone who loves partially. They can't go back to half-hearted connections. They can't settle for less than what they now know themselves to be capable of. This is part of why they can't let you go, because you're not just someone they love. You're the person who revealed to them who they are as a lover. You're the mirror that showed them their own depth. Losing you would mean losing this version of themselves they've just discovered, and that feels unbearable. Some part of them, the part that's connected to something bigger than logic, feels like there's a soul agreement between you. Like on some level that transcends ordinary consciousness, you chose each other for this exact experience. Like your souls knew what they were doing even when your minds were clueless. They're not religious necessarily, but they're feeling something sacred in this connection. Something that transcends simple attraction or compatibility. There's a quality to what's between you that feels ordained, destined, meant. And while their logical mind might question this, their deeper knowing doesn't doubt it for a second. This spiritual recognition makes leaving feel like breaking a promise they made before they even knew you. It makes walking away feel like abandoning something their soul signed up for. It makes letting go feel like spiritual betrayal. Whether you believe in this dimension of connection or not, they're feeling it, and it's one more thread binding them to you. The transformation they're undergoing. They're in metamorphosis, and you're the catalyst. They're not just falling for you, they're falling into a new version of themselves. A version that's more vulnerable, more honest, more capable of intimacy. A version that's willing to risk more because they've experienced that the reward of genuine connection is worth the vulnerability. They're shedding old protective patterns that no longer serve them. They're confronting fears they've carried for years. They're healing wounds they didn't even know were still open, simply through the experience of being seen and accepted by you. You're not trying to fix them, that's not what this is, but your presence is creating a safe enough space for them to do their own internal work. And transformation is binding. Once you've started becoming someone new, you can't go back to the old version without it feeling like death. They can't let you go because you're inextricably linked to who they're becoming, and who they're becoming is someone they actually respect, someone they actually want to be. The fear of never finding this again. Beneath everything else is this fundamental terror: what if this is it? What if you're the one who makes them feel this alive, this seen, this cherished, and they walk away, and they never find it again? What if they spend the rest of their life comparing everyone to you and finding everyone lacking? What if they're standing at the doorway of the most significant relationship of their life and they close that door out of fear? They're haunted by the potential regret. They can already feel the ghost of the future version of themselves that let you go, the version that's looking back thinking, why did I do that? Why did I let fear win? Why didn't I fight for what we could have been? And that ghost future self is warning them, don't make the mistake I made. Don't let this go. This fear, the fear of future regret, is actually more powerful than their fear of present pain. They're more afraid of wondering, what if, for the rest of their life than they are of taking the risk and finding out. If this is resonating with your exact situation, type, I see it, in the comments. Let's acknowledge what's being revealed here. So what do you do with this knowledge? How do you navigate being the person someone has fallen this deeply for? Here's the wisdom you need to move forward with clarity and grace. Understanding that someone is this emotionally entangled with you is powerful information. You could use it for manipulation, for ego gratification, for control. But true love, the kind that's sustainable and healthy, doesn't exploit vulnerability. It honors it. This means being intentional about how you show up. If you know they're this deep, you have a responsibility to be clear about your own feelings and intentions. You don't get to play games with someone's heart when you know how much access you have to it. You don't get to be cavalier with someone's vulnerability when you understand the magnitude of what they're feeling. Honoring their depth means showing up consistently. It means being honest about where you are. It means not leading them on if you're not equally invested. It means recognizing that their attachment to you isn't weakness, it's trust, and trust is sacred. But it also means not diminishing your own worth or playing small because someone loves you deeply. Their depth is a gift, not a burden you have to carry through guilt or obligation. You're allowed to receive their love without it becoming a weight. You're allowed to be cherished without feeling like you owe them something in return. The balance is this: honor what they're feeling without making it about you, and receive what they're offering without exploiting their willingness to give. Principle 2, match depth with clarity. If you want this connection to move forward in a healthy way, meet their emotional depth with communicative clarity. Don't leave them guessing. Don't make them read signals and interpret silence. If they're this vulnerable with you, you owe them the gift of clear communication. This means articulating your feelings even when it's scary. This means having conversations about what you want, where you see this going, what your fears are, what your hopes are. This means being willing to be as emotionally honest as they've been with you. Many connections die not from lack of feeling but from lack of clarity. Someone is deep in their feelings but doesn't know where the other person stands, so they start protecting themselves, pulling back, creating distance to avoid potential rejection. Don't let that happen. If you care about them, if you want this connection to have a chance, give them the clarity that allows them to stay open without feeling foolish. And if you're not on the same page, say that too. Lovingly, gently, but clearly. Because the cruelest thing you can do to someone who's fallen this deep is to let them stay in uncertainty while you figure out what you want. Respect their emotional investment enough to be honest about yours. Principle 3, create space for the mess. Falling this deeply isn't pretty. It's messy. They're going to have moments of insecurity, times when their wounds get triggered, instances where their fear makes them act in ways that aren't their best. If you want to build something real with someone who's this emotionally invested, you have to create space for the mess. This means not punishing them for their vulnerability. Not making them feel stupid for caring so much. Not using their attachment as leverage in conflicts. When they're scared and it comes out sideways, maybe as jealousy, maybe as neediness, maybe as anger, look past the behavior to the fear underneath. Meet the fear with reassurance, not judgment. Creating space for mess also means allowing yourself to be messy too. They're not expecting perfection, they're expecting realness. Your willingness to be flawed, to struggle, to not have it all together actually deepens intimacy because it equalizes the vulnerability. Don't stay on a pedestal trying to be worthy of their love. Get down in the mess with them and build something authentic. The strongest relationships aren't between people who never struggle, they're between people who struggle together and choose each other anyway. Principle 4, grow into your own depth. If someone has fallen this deeply for you, there's a reason. They're seeing something in you, a quality, a potential, a way of being, that they want in their life. Now your work is to grow into that truth about yourself, not because you need to earn their love, but because their love is revealing who you're capable of becoming. Let their depth call forth your depth. If they're being brave enough to be vulnerable, can you be brave enough to match them? If they're risking their heart, can you risk yours? If they're choosing to love with abandon, can you learn to receive that and reciprocate it? Many people run when someone loves them intensely because they don't feel worthy of that love, or they don't believe they can sustain that level of connection. But worthiness isn't something you have to prove, it's something you grow into. Let this connection be the catalyst for your own expansion. This might mean doing your own healing work. It might mean confronting your own patterns around intimacy and availability. It might mean being honest about what scares you about being loved this much. But that inner work is what transforms a connection from intense infatuation into sustainable love. Principle 5. Protect the sacred without suffocating it. When something is this precious, the instinct is to grip it tightly, to control it, to make sure it doesn't slip away. But relationships are living things, they need air to breathe, space to grow, freedom to evolve. Protecting what you have means valuing it, nurturing it, being intentional about it. But it doesn't mean controlling it. It doesn't mean making rules that strangle spontaneity. It doesn't mean holding so tightly that there's no room for natural evolution. Trust the connection enough to let it unfold. Trust their love enough to not need constant proof of it. Trust yourself enough to believe that if this is meant to be, it will find its way even through challenges and uncertainty. The paradox is this: the more you try to control love, the more it resists you. The more you create space for it to be what it is, the more it flourishes. This means having your own life, maintaining your own identity, keeping connections with friends and passions outside the relationship. It means encouraging them to do the same. It means building a relationship where two whole people choose each other, not where two halves cling together out of fear of being incomplete alone. Principle 6. Honor divine timing. Just because someone has fallen deeply doesn't mean everything has to be rushed. Just because the feeling is intense doesn't mean the timeline has to be accelerated. There's wisdom in allowing things to unfold at the pace they're meant to unfold. If you're not ready for the depth they're offering, say that, but don't disappear. If you need time to catch up to where they are emotionally, ask for that, but don't leave them hanging. If there are external circumstances that need to align before this can become what you both want it to become, acknowledge those, but don't use them as an excuse to avoid emotional honesty. Divine timing means trusting that the right things happen at the right time, even when our human desire wants everything immediately. It means being present in the season you're in rather than rushing to the next one. It means understanding that the foundation you're building now determines the strength of what you'll build later. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is to slow down, to be intentional, to let the depth develop at a pace that's sustainable. Intensity that develops too quickly can burn itself out. Depth that grows gradually can last a lifetime. Principle 7. Remember they chose you. In all of this navigation and strategizing, don't forget this simple beautiful truth: they chose you. Out of everyone they could give their heart to, they're giving it to you. Out of all the ways they could spend their emotional energy, they're investing it in you. That choice is precious. You don't have to be perfect to be worthy of that choice. You don't have to have everything figured out. You just have to show up as honestly as you can and honor what they're offering with the same courage it took for them to offer it. Their depth isn't a trap, it's a gift. Their inability to let you go isn't manipulation, it's testimony to what you've created together. Receive it as the sacred offering it is, and then decide, what do you want to build with this person who sees you so clearly and chooses you so completely? The answer to that question will determine everything that comes next. If this guidance is landing where you need it, I'd be honored if you'd support this work through super thanks. It's what makes these profound explorations possible. So here you are. Armed with understanding about exactly how deeply this person has fallen, exactly why they can't seem to let you go, exactly what's happening in their internal world as they grapple with the magnitude of what they feel for you. The question now isn't whether they're attached, that's been established. The question is, what will you do with that knowledge? This is an invitation to meet them where they are. Not to match their intensity out of obligation, but to honestly assess your own feelings and then show up from that truth. They've done the brave thing by falling. Now you get to do the brave thing by being honest about whether you're falling too. If you're feeling this same depth, this same magnetic pull, this same sense that something rare is happening between you, then let them know. Stop protecting yourself through distance or ambiguity. Stop testing them to see if they'll stay while you remain guarded. They've already shown you their cards. Show them yours. Tell them what they mean to you. Tell them what you see in this connection. Tell them that their depth doesn't scare you, or if it does, that you're willing to be scared together. Give them the gift of knowing they're not alone in this free fall, that you're descending into the same depths they are, that their bravery in loving you is met with your own bravery in loving them back. If you're not there yet, if you're still figuring out your feelings, still processing what this means for you, still catching up to where they are, then say that too. Give them the respect of honesty. Let them know you need time but you're not disappearing. Let them know you value what's building but you need to move at your own pace. Give them something to hold on to while you do your own internal work. And if you know in your heart that you can't meet them there, that this isn't your person, that the depth they're offering isn't something you want to receive, that you need to release them so they can find someone who can love them the way they deserve, then the kindest thing you can do is let them know clearly and cleanly. Don't string them along. Don't keep accepting their love while knowing you won't reciprocate. Let them go with compassion so they can begin healing. Whatever you decide, recognize what you're holding here. Connections like this, where someone falls so completely, where vulnerability runs this deep, where two souls recognize each other this clearly, are rare. This doesn't happen with just anyone. This doesn't happen often in a lifetime. You could walk away from this and maybe you'd be fine. Maybe you'd find other connections that are good, comfortable, pleasant. But would you find this again? This specific quality of depth, this particular kind of seeing and being seen, this exact flavor of magic. I'm not saying that out of fear, I'm saying it as invitation. An invitation to truly consider what you're choosing if you choose to walk away. An invitation to make sure you're not running from something beautiful because it feels too intense or too vulnerable or too real. An invitation to ensure that if you do walk away, you're doing it from clarity rather than fear. Because here's what I see happen so often, people walk away from depth because depth is uncomfortable. They choose surface-level connections that feel safer, more controllable, less demanding. And then years pass, and they look back and realize they walked away from the exact thing they'd been searching for, they just didn't recognize it at the time because it came wrapped in intensity instead of ease. Don't be the person who realizes too late what they had. Don't be the person haunted by, what if, because you were too scared to find out, what is. If this connection is real, and the depth of their falling suggests it might be, then it deserves your full consideration, not your reflexive retreat. The growth opportunity embedded here. Regardless of where this connection goes, you're being given an opportunity for profound growth. You're being shown what it looks like when someone loves without holding back. You're experiencing what it feels like to be chosen completely. You're learning what happens when vulnerability meets vulnerability, when depth calls to depth, when two people dare to show up authentically. Let this experience change you. Let it teach you about your own capacity for connection. Let it show you what you actually want in relationships going forward. Let it reveal patterns you might need to heal, fears you might need to face, walls you might need to dismantle. Even if this particular connection doesn't become your forever, let it transform your understanding of what's possible. Let it raise your standards. Let it show you that surface-level connection isn't enough for you anymore, that you're capable of and worthy of something profound. The person who falls deeply for you is a mirror showing you your own depth. They see something in you worth falling for. Can you see it too? Can you own it? Can you grow into the fullness of who they're reflecting back to you? The choice that's yours alone. At the end of the day, no one can tell you what to do with this connection. Not me, not your friends, not the universe sending you signs. This is your choice, and it has to come from your deepest knowing. But make the choice consciously. Make it from a place of honesty with yourself. Make it after you've sat with your own feelings, examined your own fears, considered your own desires. Don't let default patterns decide for you. Don't let fear masquerading as logic talk you out of something your heart knows is real. Ask yourself, a year from now, which decision would I be more likely to regret, taking the risk and it not working out, or not taking the risk and never knowing what could have been? Ask yourself, what does my deepest wisdom say about this person and this connection? Underneath all the fear and noise and confusion, what do I actually know? Ask yourself, am I running towards something better, or am I running away from something real because real is scary? And then, once you have your answer, once you've been ruthlessly honest with yourself about what you actually want and feel, honor that truth. Act from it. Build from it. Trust it. The beauty of being chosen. Before we close, I want you to really take in what it means that someone can't let you go. In a world where people ghost, where connections are disposable, where everyone's looking for the next best thing, someone has looked at you and decided you're not someone they can walk away from. They've seen your flaws and they're staying. They've experienced your complexity and they're leaning in. They've tasted the depth possible with you and they don't want anything less. That says something profound about who you are and what you offer. You are someone worth falling for. You are someone whose absence would leave a hole. You are someone who's changed another person's life simply by being yourself in their presence. That's not small. That's not common. That's not something to take lightly. Whether this connection becomes a lifelong partnership or a significant chapter that eventually closes, you've already given someone the gift of remembering what it feels like to fall completely. You've already shown someone that depth is possible. You've already been part of someone's transformation story. That matters. You matter. What you've created together matters. The final word. They never expected to fall this deep. They had their walls built, their heart protected, their future planned. And then you showed up and disrupted everything. Not through manipulation or strategy, but simply by being who you are. Now they're in unfamiliar territory, feeling things they swore they wouldn't feel, wanting things they said they didn't need, imagining futures they didn't think were possible. They're lying awake thinking about you. They're replaying conversations. They're analyzing every interaction for signs of what you feel. They're terrified and exhilarated in equal measure. And they don't know how to let you go because on some fundamental level, they don't want to. Because you've become essential. Because life without you in it now feels like life with a crucial piece missing. Because they've already imagined what forever with you could look like, and even though that scares them, the alternative, forever without you, scares them more. So they're standing at this crossroads, the safe path back to who they were before you, or the uncertain path forward into whatever you're becoming together. And everything in them is leaning toward you, pulling toward you, choosing you. The question that remains is simple but profound: will you choose them back? Will you honor what they're offering? Will you meet their vulnerability with your own? Will you be brave enough to find out what happens when two people stop protecting themselves and start building something real? Only you can answer that. But know this, whatever you decide, make it a decision you can live with. Make it one that comes from your deepest truth. Make it one that honors both their courage in falling and your own integrity in responding. You are standing in a moment that could define your life. A moment where real love is possible, where transformation is available, where something rare is being offered. What you do with this moment is entirely up to you. But I deeply hope, that you choose with your whole heart, whatever that choice is. That you don't let fear make the decision for you. That you don't look back years from now wishing you'd been braver. You deserve the kind of love that falls deep and doesn't want to let go. And so do they.